Hi everyone, this is our presentation for the Asian Network of ACE Queer Activists. I am your presentators, Thanh Huyền, and this lovely PowerPoint was made by our member, Bon. For a brief introduction, in 2013, Asexual in Vietnam fan page and private group was created by our member, Admin J, and up till now, Asexual in Vietnam is considered as the biggest organization for asexual people in Vietnam. Our main two mission is to creating safe spaces to connect people in asexual spectrum, asexual, queersexual, and demisexual, and others, and to increase their presence and support them to share their daily issues. Our second mission is to educate others to lessen misunderstandings and reduce prejudice, stigma, and discrimination towards asexual people. Currently, Asexual in Vietnam has over 50 members working in two main areas, Hanoi capital city and Ho Chi Minh cities. About the male, female, and non-binary ace people conditions, the overall current status of asexual people in Vietnam is the term asexuality is still unfamiliar in Vietnam, and there are no statistics on asexual people in Vietnam. The discrimination and stigma on the ace community is that many do not believe in the existence of ace people and thinking it is a disease that needs to be cured, or is it caused by ace people not finding a suitable person, or ace people just simply can't have sex and not interested in sex. And people often misunderstand asexuality and aromanticism, thinking that ace people cannot feel or experience love or get married. People think that asexuality is a choice to be a monk or to spend more time focusing on one's career. And many think that ace people actually, those who have not yet accepted themselves as gay and ace people are selfish for not having filial piety towards their families. For female asexuals, ace women are often mistaken for lesbian and or might have fragility, and people often call ace women as the frigid woman. And female asexuals are often seen as irresponsible with their roles toward their family. And ace women are considered to be arrogant or playing hard to get. They are also thought to prefer focusing on their career development instead of fulfilling the obligation of a woman. We are trying to raise awareness of ace women existence in other feminist organizations. For ace men, male asexuals are often seen as lacking masculinity and refuse to admit that they are gay. The representations of ace men is relatively low because they are afraid of social judgment, supporting toxic masculinity. And male asexuals are often considered to be physiologically weak and unable to satisfy or attract women. For non-binary asexuals, most people are not able to distinguish between gender identity and biological sex. Therefore, there are little to no representations of non-binary asexuals. And for trans asexuals, trans asexuals often recognize their asexuality only after discovering their gender identity. And we are trying to raise awareness of transgender people in the community. The general sex education and asexual awareness in Vietnam. The improvements on sex educations in recent years, sex education has been incorporated in subjects like science and morality at elementary, middle, or high school. And there are now more non-compulsory lessons held in high school and college, teaching about safe sex and contraceptive. However, there's still a wall of hesitance from parents and teachers. Parents are still reluctant to teach their children about sex, believing it is the school responsibilities. and their reluctance partly explain the school hesitance to teach children about sex. Many people, including teachers, thinking that if they let their children learn or know too much about sex and related issues, it will trigger their curiosity and prompt them to have premarital sex. Teachers usually skip this lesson, and even if they did teach them, they did so only because it is compulsory, and both sides are very shy and students refuse to engage. We also meet with the refusal to broaden the topic, and sex ed often teach about females' puberty and menstruation, and there is no other topic like safe sex, about consent or sexuality and gender. A report published by Human Rights Watch said that Vietnam's sex ed policies and practice did not meet international standard, and noted that it did not include mandatory discussion of sexual orientation or gender identity, including LGBTQ issues. It leads to a lot of consequence. Children and teenagers often learn about sex through the internet and through porn and online information. And we have some numbers and data to prove the consequence. Vietnam ranked tops in Asia among the top 5 worldwide in the rate of abortion, according to official health report. Therefore, LGBTQ discrimination is still rampant in academic environments. During classes to educate students about family and marriage, some teachers do spread the notion that homosexuality is an illness and it is very bad. Some even told the class that being queer is a disease and queer people need to go to the doctors and get females or males hormone injection. The discriminations of queer community leads to difficulties in AIDS awareness. There is no mention of asexuality in sex education, and since lessons about queer identity are not mentioned in school, there is little to no chance of asexuality being mentioned. And schools still spread the amatonormative notion that everyone will eventually have a family. However, Gen Zs and millennials are taking more actions, pushing for a more open environment to discuss. While most schools in the country still shy away from teaching about sex, young professionals are taking matters in their own hand. Non-governmental organizations like Rainbow School, Vietnam Youth Action for Choice are campaigning for more sex education in school. About educations and information of asexuality, it came mostly from our organizations, and there has been some recognitions from a few news outlets in recent years. About the relationship between religions and asexuality, the concept of asexuality is not yet popular in society in general, and religious and belief group in particular. Just as there has been no research in Vietnam showing the relationship and impact between religion and asexuals. 95% of Vietnam population has a religious life, and there has been like 26 million followers, accounting for 27% of the country population. By the Catholic idea of queer identity is that marriage is between one man and one woman, and it's such an important matter for the Catholic Church that it has been elevated to one of the 7 holy sacraments. The GHCG opposed same-sex marriage. Catholics are not allowed to use artificial birth control, destruction of eggs, sperm, ligation, or removal of vas or ovaries. Artificial insemination and artificial insemination technique are still not accepted. The church has defined abortion as crime. And in the Old Testament, abstinence was a very difficult thing to understand, if not a punishment from God. Fertility, giving birth to children, is a great blessing. In Buddhism, sex is considered a serious offense of monastery for monastic. Buddhism leaves the decision to get married to each individual. In Buddhism, marriage is not religious obligation, a means of procreation or romantic concept of love. It is simply a choice for each individual to make. Therefore, Buddhism and the Buddha teachings do not create difficulties for ace people. Sometimes the lack of sexual attraction is also considered an advantage or favorable condition for Buddhisms to practice because Buddhisms believe that craving is still a samsara, continuing suffering. For Protestantism, sexual instinct is a gift from God to mankind. If celibacy is not what God allows or calls for, then anyone who chooses to be celibate will surely fall into temptation and commit adultery. Even the very fact of being celibate of your own accord is a crime, because it is against the command, reproduce and fill the earth, so it is very necessary to marry. About government awareness for asexuality and LGBTQ plus community, about Vietnamese perception of sexual minorities in society. Legally, on the basis, it is difficult for Vietnam to come up with a clear law for queer people. And however, Vietnam has accepted minorities and guaranteed their basic rights compared to heterosexual people. Minorities still have the right to participate in jobs, study, and work just like everybody else. However, the government doesn't have any awareness of asexuality. About the current situation, Vietnam don't have any clear law about that bans discrimination. Stigma, discrimination, awareness about homosexuality is clear and much more common. Homosexuality are still looked down upon, and many of their rights are seriously violated in many fields like in employment, healthcare, or education. About sex taboo versus asexuality, since Vietnam society is strongly affected by Confucianism, people are not allowed to publicly talk or discuss the topic relevant to these acts. Vietnam does not have any specific laws or taboos against sex, but people would be implicitly conscious that this topic are only shared behind closed doors. Teenagers can search for more information about sex on the internet and others online social platform or learn to their friends, but it is completely not allowed to bring this up with parents and guardians, creating a distance and distrust between parents and teenagers. Several Vietnamese households still keep the ideology of a traditional family consisting two parents and their children. And most Vietnamese are bound to have their marriage plan when they reach their 30s. And this is crucial part of each individual responsibility in society to have sex and continue the family lineage. This leads to a lot of awareness problem for queer folks and supporters of queer people in Vietnam. There are many televisions and game shows intentionally and unintentionally mislead and spread misinformation about queer community. This led to many queer people ashamed of their sexuality and gender by receiving false information and poor education about themselves. They also have a lot of misunderstandings and confusion between their sexualities and gender for the lack of statistic and educational material in Vietnam. Thus create the distance that the asexual community is seen as out of place and invisible among other queer communities and society. And most people do not have a clue that there is an existence of asexual folks. This leads to the overall influence on Vietnamese asexuality. In recent years, several platforms and social groups have been created by queer youth and our fellow ally activists to build awareness and support for queer people. Asexual folks can explore and find information about their sexuality and relevant discussion on the internet, but it is still a struggle to speak up for representations and find support from external organizations due to the prejudice and misinformation against asexuality. About the medical professionals versus the knowledge of asexuality, unfortunately, currently, there has not been any research about medical professionals of asexuality, and the definition of asexuality in Vietnam has just been noticed recently. And since there is no official research published, asexuality is considered as a mental disorder or a sexual dysfunction by the majority of society. And in other words, people can barely point out the difference between sexual desire, libido, and sexual attraction. Since we face so many struggles ahead, we have a significant initiative and future plans. Within 8 years of growth and development, Asexual in Vietnam starts out as a forum group with a few members which identify as asexual. This acts firstly as a common space for asexual in Vietnam. But over time, as the rise of queer acts in Vietnam, along with the significant increase in members, the senior members realized the importance of bringing this space to Facebook as a private group and moreover as a public space. This as time was considered a memorial decision which marked the publicity of asexual community in Vietnam and a turning point in raising awareness of asexuals in Vietnam. Our achievement throughout the years, for 8 years, we have been the biggest representative organization for asexuals in Vietnam. Over the years, we have organized 2 Facebook groups, which include one for inner community only and one for both ACEs and allies to connect more profoundly with ACE community than via posts, talks, or seminars. Our Facebook fan page has reached over 16,000 likes and followers. Meanwhile, our Instagram account has over 600 followers. The number of seminars since birth of our Facebook page has exceeded 15, besides being guest big as queer events or being invited to numerous sharing and interviews throughout the years. We have also participated or co-organized events of LGBT plus community in these years, particularly Pride in local and national scale from 2014 till now. With the sponsorship of IC and Norway ambassadors, we have executed a search on the reality of building romantic relationships among asexuals in Vietnam. We were the representative of Vietnamese community in International Asexual Days in 2021, and we also won the Youth Award for promoting gender equality and diversity presented by the Irish Embassy. About our future plan, in the future, we are planning to continue to organize and participate in annual national events such as Hanoi Pride, Viet Pride, Vietnam Asexual Awareness Week, and we will proceed to execute more research on asexuals in Vietnam if possible. Also, we would like to attribute in International Asexual Day and collaborate with other asexual organizations in global and continental scale. We are currently experimenting organizing unions activities for asexual in Vietnam to assist dating demand within the community. And thank you for listening. This is the end of my our presentation. And I would like to say the last word that we are proud Vietnamese and we are proud asexual. Thank you a lot for listening and have a nice day.